Road Gang Radio. We've talked about making a living. Now let's get a life. It's Jimmy Mack and Lindsay Lawler with the best stories, the ultimate road trip, the concert of a lifetime, and a home when you're not at home. The wheels have come off, but we're still rolling.
Friday.
Friday.
I'm so glad it's Friday. I'm so sad that Dre was robbed, but it's Friday, so he's got the whole weekend to figure it out.
We haven't told the ripped off story yet. We actually buried that lead. We didn't talk about that on the air. You're the first one to introduce that. What happened?
Wow, Lindsay.
Oh, you said no, I didn't. You said as you know, because I thought you meant you've been talking about it.
Oh, no. You knew. Oh, no.
I didn't know that.
Oh, no.
I didn't tell her.
We didn't. Yeah, we didn't introduce it.
Yeah.
Oh, my sweet mother of God. We didn't. Oh, my God. I thought you had actually sent her a text about that because
No.
it was. So this morning, I'm up. My mom, dad, and I, as you know, went with my brother Ryan, who took us out to have a steak dinner. It was amazing. And so, we got home after the dinner. And of course, it's, they're both 83 years old, which meant we ate early. And that meant we got home early, and I went for a very brief walk to walk off the meal, and then I went to bed. So I got up really early this morning, and I wrote Dre a text saying, hey, man, good morning. Just be careful out there. And he writes back, he says, yeah, my car got broken into.
Too late.
And
Why didn't you tell me to be careful earlier?
And they stole all my stuff. And one of the things they stole was his pad. The pad the office pad that he actually is able to look into and see us on Google Meets. And along with that, his wallet and a bunch of other stuff too. I left him in the car, and he was kicking himself this morning. And I told him this, and I mean this. Look, I know we sometimes do stuff. We forget to kind of bring stuff in out of the car. Dude, it's not your fault. You're not the one that robbed yourself.
Yeah, man. If they want to get in, they can get in. But please, this. I only bring it up because please send money. Please send help. The address is
2306
in the arms of an angel.
2306 Esplanade Avenue, 70119.
I just feel bad because it was the one time
in this dark cold hotel room.
Huh?
Have I ever told you the story about how when...
Wait, you say the dark of this hotel room?
Isn't that what she says in the Angel
It is,
song?
but I always forget
in
that
this dark,
lyric.
cold hotel room and the emptiness I feel.
I just feel like
the song is
there's a Tarantino character getting ready to walk in and go, "Did I stutter?"
Dude, it's so gut wrenching. But so send Dre all your money. No, but several years ago, a while ago, Seamus was away. He was traveling and away, and I was home alone. And the Angel commercial came on. The pet, give the pets all your money commercial. And I remember calling Seamus like over and over. He didn't answer. And I was like, called and called and called. So finally he calls back. He's like, what's happening? I'm like, oh my God, I have my credit card out. I have to give them all my money. He's like, I thought there was an emergency. I'm at work. I'm like, there is. There is an emergency. All these dogs. Oh,
Dogs is dying.
Dogs is dying. It's an emergency.
Dogs is dying, man. Oh my God. By the way, welcome to your Friday edition of Road Gang Radio.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Lindsay Lawler, Jimmy Mack, Phone Master Dre. You can reach us and join the conversation at 615-292-6366.
That's 615-292-NEMO. You call that number. Phone Master Dre will answer. He'll say, hey. He's going to be getting our first guest on the line here in a second, which I'm very excited about. This first guest.
Oh, my God.
Anton Grosz. Is that how you think we say it?
Yeah.
Grosz? Okay.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about consciousness. He has a new book called New Consciousness, the ultimate aha moment and the next step in human evolution. I love a good aha moment. I'm to a place in life, Jim, where I have aha moments like on a every other hour basis, and I love it. And I notice every time I have an aha moment, Jim, I make a little shift. A what?
Life.
A little pivot.
Pivot?
I make a little pivot in life, and it makes me very happy. So I'm very excited about this conversation.
We had 3 people on this morning before you actually joined us who actually all had their own moments of aha, their own moments of connection. Bob Nuss talked about the idea of, restoring a couple of trucks, putting them in a showroom, and then suddenly realizing, you know what, maybe we're actually in the midst of building a museum here, and then sitting down and figure out a way to make a 60-vehicle museum, in fact, happen. We then moved on to Lee Otto, the pastor Lee Otto of Sierra Delta, and to have his aha moment of understanding that his dog was actually functioning as an ambassador for him. And actually, I love this, when he said, people get a sense of who you are from what your dog is like, and we actually unpack that, and the idea that his inner life, the good person that he was inside, was being reflective by the trust in people and the trust in life that his dog was exhibiting, that Sage was exhibiting, and how that actually led to him finding love for the second time in his life after he lost his wife. And then finally, talking to the judge about writing. And it was kind of great, the idea of, we were talking about writing, and the judge had his characters all lined up with no plot, and just a period of time, the end of junior year to the end of senior year, and kind of walking those people through them and letting the ahas accumulate to create Charlie Mann. So it is a
I
morning.
got to tell you, I had a hard time listening to that conversation, thinking about growing up and thinking about high school and remembering all my moments, and then thinking about what I'm going to, how that's going to go with my daughter. Like the first time she gets her heart broken, the first time she doesn't get invited to something, the first time somebody says something mean to her. Somebody said something not mean to her yesterday, but somebody at school pointed out her skin and her family at school. And I'm like, oh crap, here we go. And I'm just so heavy in my heart thinking of all the moments ahead. I know, but I also know it's part of the journey. We all have to go through it. We all have to go through that process. And I just hope, and we can talk to our next guest about this, but I just hope that I can be present and conscious enough to stay there with her and let her know this is just a moment. It will pass. It's part of the process, and not just slough it off. Like I think sometimes we say, yeah, rub some dirt on it. I'm going to try my best to be not tough love with my daughter, but just love, present love. So that brings us to our next guest, Jem, who I'm very excited to talk about. Would you care to bring this fine man onto the program for us?
I will begin it, by the way, by asking a simple question. And don't worry, Anton Grosz, who joins us this morning, I will not be asking it to you immediately. It's a chance for me to introduce you. What, by the way, is the new consciousness? Anton Grosz, PhD, author of the Handbook for a New Consciousness, The Next Step in Human Evolution, is a practitioner of phenomenology. The
Phenomenon.
The science of experiential reality that offers a groundbreaking framework that bridges intellect and intuition. And by the way, the book is terrific. His insights make consciousness tangible and experiential, empowering his audiences to see themselves and one another in a profoundly new light. And we are thrilled to welcome him this morning. Good morning, Anton. Good morning, Dr. Grosz. It is good to have you on.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the invite. You asked, what is new consciousness? That's really quite simple. It's knowing that the very feeling of being, the very feeling of existing that we all have inside us is the actual oneness that fills the universe. Yeah, we're each unique. How boring it would be if we were all the same. However, when you say I am, and I say I am, the feeling of just being that we each feel inside doesn't just feel the same. It's the same I am. We're not separate leaves. We're really one tree. And when humanity realizes this, it'll be big.
Doctor, I could have an entire month-long conversation with you just about I am. Just about I am. I'm getting I am tattooed on myself, by the way. I think
cool.
about that.
Well, you am.
Yeah, because I am. That's right. I think about it a lot. But I want to take, if you will, just a quick step back here, because I'm the woo-woo one around here that tries to bring in a very somewhat practical and conservative audience, and I sort of get out there. But I think there is a place for it if we all help each other expand each other, right? And so I think by having
exactly
right. But if can you take it a step back really quickly for somebody who's perhaps some sort of a skeptic? We all have a consciousness, so we should be open to this. When you use the word consciousness, because a lot of people they will drift into their own philosophy and religion when we go there, but it is a basic premise. When you use it to the most practical level, how do you explain consciousness?
It's just the feeling of being. It's just, I exist. Humans think that thinking is being conscious. They think, there are so many people who say, "Oh, humans, we think, we're conscious." But trees, they don't think, other things, animals, some, small animals, they don't think. They're not conscious. But they feel that they exist. Think about it. I mean, even a tree, when it turns to, the leaves to face the sun or sends the roots down into the ground to reach for water, there's something inside it. They can't explain it. They don't have a big brain. They don't use words. But there's something inside them that feels an existence, a need. And that is what consciousness is. The bigger the brain, the more we can do with it, the bigger our mind is. But so much of the world, so all of everything exists and feels that, and that's what life is. When you say I am and I say I am, it feels the same. Anything we add after that, male, female, black, white, old, young, rich, poor, blah, blah, whatever, they're just adjectives. They change from the very beginning. Look, when you look at yourself in the mirror right now, you're going to say, my goodness, this is a different person than I was when I was a teenager or when I was a kid. But the feeling of, that's me, I am, that hasn't changed at all, no matter what changes in the physical world. And when we realize that we're all connected like that, maybe humans will become smart enough to stop hurting each other, because when you hurt someone else, we're really hurting ourselves.
Hurt people, hurt people.
I know this for a fact. This isn't one of those things that I'm just kind of making up in the woo of the universe. Trees talk to each other. We know that the trees have an incredibly complex system of speaking to one another to find out where the food is, to find out if, in fact, there are things headed their way. I don't think a lot of people know this as well. And when somebody told me this, it just hit me like a ton of bricks, that when you smell fresh-cut grass, what you're also smelling is grass warning other grass that cutting might be coming for it as well, too. And I was stunned by that. I'm like, that's just somebody making stuff up. And I went and looked up the science behind it, Lindsay, and it is the real deal. What I wanted to ask you, since we're talking about this, is what separates us, and we might not be separated, is what separates us from the planet that we inhabit, the fact that we are able in ways that the other species, whether they are plants, whether they are, microorganisms, whether they are other animals, is our ability to be aware of our existence and our being?
Great question, because that's what makes us feel that we're, quote, better, unquote, than anybody else. Sure, we're different. We're the most evolved beings on the planet, maybe with the exception of whales and dolphins. We don't know yet. But,
Thanks for all the fish, Doctor. Thank you.
Yeah, we're way up there. We're way up there, and we think that that's what life is, being able to do that. But the feelings, like you point out, of grass, the feelings of trees, think of this, how swarms of birds and butterflies migrate. The swallows go back to Capistrano every year, right? Even if they've never been there before. How do they know that? How do they know where it is? It's a singular mind, something that Rupert Sheldrake called a morphogenetic field, but we don't need to get into that now. The fact is that there is consciousness, there's mind in all beings. There's mind in planet Earth. Think about this. If there were a gnat or something, or some mosquito or something annoying on your shoulder biting you, you try and flick it off, right? What do you think all of these crazy weather conditions that are going on, the floods, the thing, I almost feel it's like Earth saying, oh my goodness, get these humans off of me. You guys are causing so much problems. I mean, I can't think of any other species that puts plastic into the atmosphere, or plastic into the oceans, gases into the atmosphere. You know, the balance between all living things on Earth has been incredible for all these years, and we're changing it.
We are changing it. Well, we change it by our, and this is a question, because through our experience and through lived experience, we learn more, we expand, and whether that be experience on this side, on another side, through meditation, through whatever it may be. And, you know, Doctor, I remember I have not had a near-death experience as you have, but I do very vividly remember a time after going through something, and then I was on a plane and I woke up, Doctor. I remember waking up midair in the plane, and by waking up I mean to life, having my awakening, and was like, I have to this day seen the world completely different. Everything changed in that moment. And you know, you had you had an actual near-death experience that transformed your worldview as well. And I love these stories when we make people realize they don't have to go through a near-death experience in order to have their wake up on Earth. But can you, through the lens of the wake up and seeing everything different, can you talk about how your near-death experience reshaped your relationship with fear?
Oh my goodness! Oh, there's no question. I was an atheist when I grew up not believing in God. My grandfather. I was 6 years old. My grandfather sat me down on his knee. He said, "God is the sum total of man's ignorance. We used to think the sun was God. Then we learned how the sun works. Now the sun isn't God anymore." One day, and he wiggled his finger in my face, he said, "One day mankind's going to know how everything works. Then there's going to be no need for God at all." And so I believed my grandfather. I mean, he was the smartest one in the family. He won all the arguments. He was the loudest, you know. So I believed him. And then I had no oxygen. I'm 37 years old, a few years after being 6, right? I'm 37 years old. I have no oxygen in my lungs for 3 minutes or more, and I see a little light coming, getting larger and larger in the top of my head, and I'm thinking, oh, this must be the tunnel that people who've had these near-death experiences talk about, you know, and suddenly, boom, I go through that tunnel into the brightest light I've ever experienced in my life. But more than just light, they were like greater dimensions. There was just a feeling of an existence that I had not accepted before. I started rolling around on the ground. I could start to breathe again. My body was moving like an epileptic fit, but inside I was so calm. And when I could finally speak, I was control my body. I was on my knees with my hands folded in front of my chest, and my first words were, "I am reborn. I am reborn in God." And I was so embarrassed to hear me say that after all my life of not believing. But
Wow.
you understand? But so I know exactly what you're saying about on that plane. Boom, the things happen inside. We live inside just as much as we live outside, and that's what quantum physics is beginning to learn. You know, old science says you have to be able to prove it from the outside, right? Quantum science is saying we affect the things that we look at. We make the changes, you know, and our inner world is just as important as the outer world. So it's all heading in that direction. Even science is coming to understand that we're all connected.
Listen, we're joined by Dr. Anton Grosz, Handbook for a New Consciousness, The Next Step in Human Evolution. One of the things that often I hear say is we can grasp our existence, which of course is something that a lot of the other entities on this planet cannot do. We grasp our existence. But I love the word grasp because it means that we, even if we do grasp it, we are grasping that we are having to reach for a long distance to try to kind of strain ourselves to get there. You have a number of exercises in this book, and right off the bat, you come out throwing punches in the best sort of way with the say what you mean game, which by the way is one of the best strategies. I tell people often when they're working on plays or working on any sort of dramatic piece, one of the best pieces of conflict you can have is You need to tell me the truth. You need to say what's really going on. You need to figure out what it is you really mean because you're dancing around it right now. Can you talk about the application of these exercises, of these opportunities, and talk about what it means to be able to clearly, after having said it a dozen times, 1,000 times, to be able to clearly articulate what you mean?
Well, boy, that's a challenge now that you're going to make. I've got to explain it clearly after all these times, but I'll accept the challenge. We live inside us as well as outside us. All right. If you and I are going to have coffee, I'll say, man, this coffee's weak. You might say, hey, this coffee's strong. Who's right? Both of us, because it depends what something means to us, all right, that whether it's real or not. For us, no one is right and no one is wrong if you count your experience as something you actually have. And you're going to live your life differently than someone else because of your inner experience. When you say the word mother, you were talking family before when I came on. If you say the word mother, every one of us is going to think something different. Oh, my mom was so sweet. Oh, my mom was so smart. Someone else might say, oh, my mom, boy, was she a pain. Which is real. It's real for each of us. And we have to understand that all these things are just the adjectives. Nobody is right and nobody's wrong. That's why I say there are so many religions in the world, but inner spirituality is different. And the only religion that I have to, worry about is the person who says, my way is the only way. If you trust somebody to find their own path, and they truly love other people and treat other people with love and respect, why did it matter what path they take?
I love this. I love this. I'm so glad you said nobody's right and nobody's wrong, because it leads me into what I'd love to talk to you, have you dig a little deeper on that and the idea of, I think a lot of things, I always say it's like take everything in around us and it's like a juicer, put it all in and then just juice out what doesn't resonate for you and keep in what makes sense to you. And I think that's where, at least for me personally, with like religion, maybe growing up or in my like early adult years, certain things maybe didn't connect because I was like, well, I believe that, but I also believe this over here, and that would be conflicting. So can you just talk about when I believe little pieces of a lot of things, and I guess that just makes me, right? But how are we to go deeper on the no one's right and no one's wrong with that lens?
Look, so many people say, well, I know the way. This is the way. Well, sure, it's the way for you, but here's a wild thought. What if you had been on an airplane as an infant, flying across Australia, and the airplane crashed, and everybody died on that plane except for you? Now, the indigenous people of Australia, the Maoris, they would have heard the plane going across, they would have heard it crash, and they would have gone to see what happened. And if they found a little baby there, they wouldn't have left you. They'd have picked you up and taken you in. And you would have grown up completely different than you are now. Your beliefs would be different. Your language would be different. The food you ate would be different. You might not be able to drive a car, but you could sure run faster than you probably do now, right?
Yeah.
But you'd still be you. You could still feel, I exist, I am. And you wouldn't be wrong, you would just be different. And we have to accept that. Like I say, why are they going to make a difference? Well, what if there were eyes on the end of the fingers? And they looked out and they saw the thumb, and they said, you stupid thumb coming from all the way over there. Take that and that and that. And they scratched the thumb, and the thumb got infected. And the infection went through the hand back up into the fingers, and the fingers got infected. would the fingers have scratched the thumb if they knew they were connected? I don't think so. And if humans, when we realize that we are all connected, not by something out there that we can see and measure, but by the very feeling of existence, by pure consciousness, when we realize we're all connected, maybe we'll be as smart as our fingers. Maybe we won't hurt other people, because hurting others is hurting ourselves.
Doctor, it's a lot like, I don't know if you've ever seen the movie have you seen the movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow?
My wife will tell me that I did, but I just forgot. But
well,
I don't know.
The long story short about it just made me think of that. It's that moment where she the whole movie goes through. She's running to the subway. She misses the train, but the whole movie proceeds to go to, if she made the train, here's what happened. She doesn't make the train, and we see it play out parallel, right? And I think about that with our daughter, who's adopted, who, by the way, is from the Marshall Islands, and not the life that we've given her, or that one, either one is better or worse, but I think about it all the time, like, wow, things shifted for her by being there versus here, per your story. So, I mean, to you, is life a lot of these sliding doors moments where we exist on...
Oh, absolutely.
Please.
Absolutely. We have the choice. Here's the thing. You've got to vision what you want in life. All right? And that's how you're going to get there. All right? I would tell this to my kids. I told it to my grandkids. What do you want? When they say, I don't know where I'm going, what do you want to be? Think as far into the future as you can. If you're trying to climb up a mountain, you think about the top of the mountain. You don't think about the places you've been or what's down there. So you vision where you want. And then when a sliding door comes your way, you can choose to go in or wait for the next train. You can make a left turn or a right turn. Which one of these would take me closer to the goal that I want? So knowing that all works out if you keep that vision in your mind, think about it. No work of art ever showed up, from a Van Gogh painting to some guy with, writing on a wall somewhere, without it going through that person's mind first. We think about things on the inside. That's waves. We make them come out into the real world. That's particles. That's quantum physics showing that what we do inside, we can bring into the physical world. We make things happen. And where we put our mind is what we make real, what we make physical.
Doctor, we are talking with Dr. Anton Grosz. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot here real quick. We have to take a quick commercial break. Would you mind hanging on? It'll be super quick, like 1 minute. Would you mind coming back? Because I just want to wrap up and put a little bow tie on this and hit the book one more time, if you'll stay with us a couple more minutes.
Okay, if I can have a drink a cup for my cup of coffee while you're doing that.
Yes, have a sip. That's what we do around here. Take a sip. You're a member of the Road Gang with us. Dr. Anton Grosz has been joining us. You can head over to his website, which is Anton, GROSZ.com, to get this book. It's on Amazon or wherever you buy your books. The Handbook for a New Consciousness. We're going to dive a little deeper when we come back to 41.